Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a slow walk into one of those stories that almost sounds like a dream someone forgot to finish. Imagine drifting through a quiet street after midnight, the kind of street where even your footsteps start to echo like old memories. It's a little rainy, but the kind that doesn't soak you, just cool enough to feel like the world is sighing around you. You pass shuttered windows, flickering street lamps, and then you see it, a storefront that wasn't there yesterday, or last week, or possibly ever. A shoe shop. The sign is hand-painted, the kind of lettering that curves like it's remembering something. It says nothing more than Dreamed Soul Co., with a tagline barely visible under the peeling gold paint. Every pair from a dream. And look, I know what you're thinking. Sounds cursed already. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Probably. I mean, you've made worse decisions at 2 a.m., right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, comment below, where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it for you right now? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push the door open, and it rings, not with a bell, but with the soft, unmistakable chime of a piano note. One single, key, middle C. The kind of note that doesn't say welcome, but something more like, so you made it. Inside, it smells like aged leather, paper, and maybe lavender, or rain, or memory. You can't quite tell. You blink, trying to adjust to the soft amber lighting. No one's behind the counter, but everything in here feels occupied. The shelves are filled with shoes, sure, but they don't match. Not in style, or size, or even logic. One looks like it was made for a Victorian ballroom, another like it walked out of a space station. There's one with feathers, one with wheels, and one that's, wait, is that one breathing? You're drawn to a pair right in front of you. It's simple, soft-looking suede, moss green. They hum faintly when you touch them, not metaphorically, literally, like a lullaby through your fingertips. The tag doesn't say the size. It says, from the dream of a boy in 1912, worn once, in a field of wheat, then buried. You don't know why, but you sit down and try them on. They fit perfectly. Which is weird because you've never had shoes that just fit, not without a little pinch or extra lace or something to break them in. But these feel like they already knew you were coming. And for a brief second, maybe less than a blink, you see it, a flash, a wheat field. Golden. Sunset pouring over everything like syrup. A boy running. You can't see his face, but you know he's laughing. You can hear a name on the wind, and it's yours? Then it's gone. Just like that. You take the shoes off and put them back gently. The hum stops. The air stills. But something shifted now. The shop feels aware of you. From behind a curtain at the back, a voice hums, soft, female, humming a song that feels older than songs. You don't see her, but you hear a whisper that follows it. Pick only what dreams can hold. No idea what that means. But your feet start walking anyway. You wander past a case labeled Prototype 0001. It's shattered. Inside is a single wooden sole charred at the edges. A note scrawled underneath says, designed in the founder's first lucid dream. Burned upon waking. Reappeared here 3 nights later. You pass another pair hanging from the ceiling, loafers, but they're upside down, tied at the laces. A card says, worn once by someone who tried to walk backwards out of a mistake. Okay, bit dramatic, but it makes you grin. A little further down you see a long shelf titled, not for wearing, only for remembering. The shoes here are glass, porcelain. One pair is carved from what looks like chalk. Another from solidified. Missed, you don't touch them. Then you see it. A small podium spotlit, on it a black shoebox with no logo, no label. Just your name, hand-lettered in cursive. You didn't tell them your name, you didn't even say it out loud. But here it is. You hesitate, then open the box. Inside is a folded piece of fabric, thin, a shoe bag. Inside that, nothing, no shoes, just a smell. Wet grass. Morning wind. A feeling in your chest like you're about to remember something you've never known, and that's when the voice returns, louder, warmer. Some shoes don't exist yet. They wait for the dream to come to you. You want to ask who's speaking, but you don't because suddenly you're very tired. Your eyelids get heavy, the hum returns, not from the shoes but from you. And in the soft light of the store, you sit and you dream. The floorboards creak beneath you, not in a spooky way, but more like they're adjusting, like wood in an old house sighing through the night. You're still sitting there, your hand resting on the empty shoe bag, wondering if the dream that's supposed to come to you already has. But then something curious happens. You hear footsteps not coming toward you. No, these are faint, distant, muffled, like someone walking inside a carpeted cathedral, and every step echoes just slightly out of sync with reality, like a drumbeat from another room in time. You stand, or maybe you float. It's hard to tell anymore. The room ahead seems different now, wider, darker, as if the shoe store just grew a cathedral's worth of square footage when you weren't looking. And in the center of it all, a glass case, lit. From below, glowing like stained glass under moonlight. Inside is a single shoe, just one. The placard reads, Modèle Le Sommeilleur, designed from the final dream of Antoine Morel, 1924. He never woke up. You lean closer. The shoe is odd, elegant but ancient looking, as if cobbled from both 18th century France and a future that hasn't quite decided on gravity. The leather is soft, curling slightly at the edges, stitched with golden thread so fine it looks like light itself. But what gets you isn't the design, it's the feeling. The moment your eyes land on it, you know something about Antoine Morel. Not facts, not his age or his biography, but sadness, quiet sadness, longing, wrapped in velvet. You feel it, like a warm ache in the ribs. The founder of Dreamed Soul Co. He'd been a young man, barely 22, apprenticing in a Parisian atelier by day and sketching shoes he saw in his dreams by candlelight. His co-workers laughed. Too whimsical, too soft, no one wants a slipper that cries. Until one day in early winter of 1924, Antoine fell asleep at his workbench and never woke up, except he did. Sort of. See, over the following weeks, more and more people began reporting dreams. Vivid ones. Of shoes they'd never seen before. Of walking into strange shops that smelled like cardamom and thunder. Of finding a pair that fit just right, then waking up with the feeling still tingling in their toes. And every design they described? It matched sketches in Antoine's old notebook, page for page, seam for seam. That's when the company began, though not in any traditional sense. There was no launch party, no ribbon cutting. Just a handwritten letter sent to 27 cobblers and artisans across Europe. The letter was unsigned, and all it said was, I will keep dreaming, you just make them. Some dismissed it as a prank, but one recipient, a retired bootmaker in Lyon, followed the instructions. He built a shoe from the sketch enclosed, and when he slipped it onto his foot, he saw his wife again, the one he'd lost 7 years earlier, just for a moment, standing in their garden laughing at his crooked sun hat. Then she was gone, and so was the shoe. That part confused him the most, because he was wearing the shoe. Then he blinked, and he wasn't, but he still remembered the dirt between his toes. Now as you stare at Antoine Morel's final design, you wonder if this was his last dream. What did he see? Did he walk somewhere too beautiful to come back from? Or maybe the shoe was the dream. A perfect walking goodbye. They say the real Antoine, the one with a heartbeat, was buried in a simple coffin in the French countryside. But the company? It continued without him, or maybe through him. Nobody ever officially ran it. There were no CEOs, no ads, no headquarters, just sketches, appearing mysteriously in mailboxes, folded into vintage magazines, etched into frost on train windows. Each time a new design arrived, a cobbler somewhere would recognize it, not with their eyes but in their bones, and they'd build it. Sometimes the shoe would vanish after being worn once. Sometimes it would vanish before being worn. Sometimes the wearer would vanish with it. Those ones never got talked about. Well, not officially. You circle the glass case now. There's a single long scratch along the left heel, like it snagged something sharp in a hurry. Underneath, in handwriting so tiny, it looks like a whisper. he was running from something, or to something. And then, just as quietly, the lights in the room flicker. The glass begins to fog, not from outside, but from inside the case, like the shoe is breathing. Okay, this is the part where normally you'd leave, right? Wrong. You lean closer, because something in you is aching to know. But instead of seeing the shoe, you see your reflection. And for just a second, you're not wearing what you were before. You're wearing the le sommeilleur. One shoe, your right foot, your left is bare. And you're standing in a field that isn't yours on a morning that hasn't happened yet. Your breath catches, but then the fog clears. The room is still and the shoe is just a shoe again. Well, if you can call anything here just a shoe, you back away because a part of you understands this wasn't about Antoine, it was about you. Somehow the story always is. There's a subtle change in the floor beneath your feet now, softer, as if instead of wood you're walking across pages, thin, old pages from a book no one ever published. And maybe, just maybe, it's your dream you're walking through. Now you find yourself in a narrower part of the store, or maybe it's a hallway. The ceiling dips lower, the walls close in slightly, lined with dozens of drawers, each one labeled in handwriting that looks like it was penned mid-sleep. You slide one open at random and inside, a single shoe, not a pair, just one. Faded silk, a thin leather sole, and something odd. What looks like a monarch butterfly wing stitched into the heel. The tag reads, Marie Antoinette's Escape. Dreamed, July 17, 1886, by an American schoolteacher who'd never been to France. You pause, because that doesn't make sense. Marie Antoinette died in 1793, and yet that date. 1886. Almost a century later, you pick up the shoe and it's incredibly light, as if it's resisting the present moment. The stitching isn't just delicate, it shifts when you tilt the shoe, forming patterns like embroidery that's undecided. Some shapes resemble guillotine blades, others, flowers. You blink and you see it, not with your eyes, but with your entire self. A young queen in a heavy gown, running barefoot through a garden under moonlight. Her dress rips at the hem, but she doesn't stop. She's holding something, a shoe, this shoe. She's whispering something in French over and over. You don't speak French, but somehow you know what she's saying. They only ever remembered my ending. When the dream fades, you're still holding the shoe, heart beating a little faster than you'd like. You slide it back into the drawer and shut it. But the feeling lingers. Not fear. Something else. Like having touched a version of history. That wasn't quite edited yet. Next to the drawer is a small plaque. Some dreams remember wrong on purpose. You smile at that, because honestly, same. The next drawer you open contains a black boot laced up to the knee with what looks like barbed silver thread. You're almost afraid to touch it, but curiosity wins. It's heavier than it looks. A small card inside reads, designed from a reoccurring dream reported by 76 strangers in 1932. All described the same alley, same scream, same missing left boot. You gently put it back. Further down the corridor, the air grows cooler, and for a brief moment, you think you hear a harpsichord playing somewhere in the walls. You follow it, or maybe it follows you, until you find a glass display not much larger than a suitcase. Inside, a pair of slippers. Ivory satin. Worn. The key. Label, Marie Antoinette, final pair. Replica of shoes worn at the conciergerie, as described by the dream of a prison janitor, 1811. This one you don't touch, not because you're afraid, but because the dream inside those shoes feels private. Like the kind of dream someone whispers in confession, and even in a room full of phantom shoes you know to be polite. Then you notice something odd. There are 3 pairs of shoes that look identical, each labeled Antoinette's Escape. But each tag tells a different story. One says she got away by sea, one says she became a baker in a small village, and one says she woke up. She woke up, which is, when you think about it, maybe the strangest ending of all, and that's when it hits you. These aren't shoes made about history. They're shoes made by people dreaming history into something else. History as felt, not recorded, And sure, it's unsettling, but also eye-freeing. You turn a corner and find a shelf titled Alternate Endings, 1 per customer, and below it, a note. The real version happened, but so did the dream. You stand there, for a long moment, unsure if you're more comforted or disturbed. Eventually, you walk away, but you keep glancing back, like maybe those shoes are changing when you're not looking. And part of you wonders, how many moments in history have been rewritten by a dream no one ever woke up from? And would you even know? The hall begins to stretch again, curving into a spiral staircase. But before you go, you turn to look at the last drawer, the one tucked beneath all the others. It's unlabeled, dusty. You pull it open. Inside is an empty shoe mold, no leather, no laces, just a wooden form, except when you blink again, it's not empty anymore. You see a familiar pair of shoes, yours, but aged, like they've been waiting for you. You don't remember taking off your shoes, but there they are, sitting neatly in the drawer, weathered like they've walked through 100 years of dust and sun and stories you haven't lived yet. The scuffed toes, the frayed laces. One tiny pebble still lodged in the tread, as if they've been out there in some version of time your body hasn't caught up with. You lean closer. They don't smell like your shoes. They smell like chimney smoke and fresh mint and a summer storm over cobblestone streets. Weirdly specific, right? You glance behind you. The hallway's still empty, but the lights have dimmed, like even the store knows it's not supposed to be here too long. Like it's holding its breath. You close the drawer gently, not because you're scared, but because it feels like slamming it might wake something up. That's when you notice the wall beside the drawer. A large photo, sepia-toned, framed in what looks like melted wax. A crowd of people from another century standing in front of what might have been a shoe factory. You squint. They're all barefoot, and yet beneath the image, a hand-scrawled note. All of them designed shoes in their sleep. Only one of them survived the fall collection of 1937. Okay, what fall collection? You mutter it out loud without meaning to, and the lights flicker in response. You take a slow step back and suddenly you're facing a new hallway. This one is colder, cleaner, less like a dream, more like a memory you haven't had yet. Ati. The far end is a room labeled Experimental 1958. You hesitate. Not because of fear, because of how quiet everything has become. No music, no hum, not even the creaking boards anymore. Just silence. So obviously you walk straight into it. The door opens without a sound. Inside is a large, sterile space, fluorescent lights overhead, metal carts, faded clipboards, and rows of shoes placed neatly on surgical trays. Each one labeled not with a name, but with a dream category. Collective delusion, Cold War anxiety, inevitable collapse. The floating feeling right before you hit the ground. You pause at the last one because, yeah, you've had that dream too. The one where you're falling endlessly and just before impact you wake up, except some of these shoes were designed to skip the waking up part. In 1958, Dreamed Soul Co. allegedly conducted a private campaign to test synchronized dreaming footwear. The goal? To have multiple people enter the same dream and report back. The result? Nobody ever agreed on what the dream was because they never remembered it. But every test subject swore they'd been somewhere together, somewhere vast, cold, and echoing. One man drew a map, another sculpted a city out of mashed potatoes during dinner. A woman, after trying on the prototype heels, painted 47 portraits in one night, all of people she'd never met. Historians still argue whether the campaign ever really happened. Some say the documents were faked. Others claim the shoes never existed outside of fevered post-war paranoia. And a few believe the experiment worked, and that we're living inside the shared dream right now. But you? You're just standing there, looking at a pair of sneakers labeled Dream Number 14, the snowstorm that spoke Latin. You pick one up. It's surprisingly warm. You half expect it to start talking, but it doesn't. It just hums. That low, velvety hum again. Like before, you slip one on just to feel it, and suddenly you're outside, bare trees, a field of snow. Wind whistling Latin phrases you don't understand, but somehow know are about you. Then, back in the room, the shoes already off, as if it never happened. but the chill lingers in your bones. You glance down the rows again. Some shoes are glowing faintly now like coals, and in the far corner a box unlike the others. It's not sterile or tagged. It's a shoebox wrapped in newspaper clippings from the 1950s. You peel one back and see a headline. Unsleepwalkers vanish after dreaming the same city. You don't open the box. You already know what's in there. A pair in your size, and you're not ready for that. Not yet. You exit the room, or at least you try to. But when you turn the knob, the door leads to somewhere new again. It always does. The door doesn't creak open this time. It sighs, like something old, exhausted, and just a little amused that you're still following this path. You step through and find yourself in a long, narrow gallery. The lighting shifts again, now a soft, dreamlike blue, like the inside of a whale, or maybe the moment just before dawn when everything is too quiet to trust. On either side of you, shelves stretch to the ceiling. But unlike the chaotic mismatch before, this space feels intentional, curated, reverent. The sign above reads, "Designed by those who couldn't see." You pause. That's when you notice. Each of the shoes here, dozens, maybe hundreds, are displayed with a single name followed by a note that reads, "Blind since birth. Designed in sleep." You take a slow breath and approach the first shelf. A small sandal, handmade, woven from reeds and silver wire, like something a river would wear to a dinner party. The name on the card is Adele K, and her dream is described. Path of singing stones leading to the edge of the ocean. She never saw the water, but she knew its color. You don't know what that means, but you feel it anyway. Like poetry written by wind on your spine. You walk farther in. There's a pair of boots that look like they were carved out of honey and ash, labeled Darian M. 1949. The note says, he dreamed of walking into a cathedral where footsteps echoed in harmony. Said he heard the walls breathe. You pick one up gently and close your eyes, and for a second, just a second, you swear you hear it too. Not breathing exactly, but rhythm. Like the sound of someone else's heartbeat syncing with your own. The gallery is silent except for your steps, but you can feel the presence of the designers here. Their visions stitched into every seam, not from what they saw, but from what they felt. And suddenly you understand, these weren't designed by people trying to recreate the real world. They were built by people who never knew what the real world looked like, so they made something better. A boot catches your eye, sleek, almost futuristic, but with a curve at the ankle, like a question mark. The leather shimmers between green and blue and something else entirely. The tag reads, "Name unknown, dreamed during a coma. Family never learned his name." The shoe appeared beside his hospital bed on the third night. Okay, that one chills. You a little, but not in a bad way, just in the way good mysteries do. You reach a corner of the room and find a mirror, or it was a mirror. It's cracked now, just slightly, and your reflection doesn't move when you do. It stands still as if it's the one watching you. Behind the mirror is a small door. Of course there is. You open it. This time, there's no sigh, no sound at all. It leads into a narrow hallway filled with scent. Not bad, just strong, leather, smoke, cinnamon, rain on stone. All the smells of memory, compacted into a corridor you could barely turn around in. At the end, a low table. A single design sketch rests atop it. The paper is aged, edges curled, but the ink is fresh, and it's your handwriting. Except you never wrote it. It's a shoe design, one you swear you've never seen before, but it looks right. Curved in just the way your foot arches when you're nervous, threaded where your weight presses down hardest. On the side, a tiny inscription, for when you're finally ready to leave. You don't know what that means yet, but you know it will. You fold the paper gently, and when you turn around, the hallway is gone. You're standing at the beginning of a staircase now. It spirals downward, not into darkness, but into something softer, like memory, or sleep, or the part of yourself you rarely visit because it's too quiet down there. You step onto the first stair, and you hear it again, the hum, but this time it's coming from you. The staircase curves like a whisper being kept. It's made of wood, but not new wood. This is the kind that remembers every footstep, every moment of hesitation, every person who paused halfway down and thought, Maybe I shouldn't. But you do. Of tea. Course you do. And as you descend, the air grows warmer, the kind of warmth you only find in blanket forts or inside the memory of your grandmother's house. It's not comforting so much as familiar. Like you've been here before in a dream you didn't realize was yours. At the bottom there's no room, just a threshold. Beyond it, everything opens. You're in a massive warehouse now if you can. Call it that. The ceiling stretches higher than logic would allow, and long fluorescent lights buzz faintly overhead. Industrial fans rotate in slow motion, even though there's no breeze. This place doesn't feel like a dream or a shop anymore. It feels like a facility, a place where something was once made. Something dangerous, maybe. A faded sign near the entrance reads, "Tread carefully, Memory Production Floor B." You glance down. The floor is polished concrete, but every few steps there's a square of tile embedded in the surface. Each tile has a shoe print in it. A real one. Pressed into the cement like fossils. You crouch near one and read the inscription. Test subject. Sayasul 19, Dream 43, the door at the bottom of the pool. You step over that one. Farther in, you find shoes mounted to the walls like exhibits in a very tired, very secret museum. One catches your eye immediately. It looks like it was made of smoke barely holding itself together. If you blink too long, it almost disappears. The placard reads, "Slip-on prototype, designed during a fever dream." User described it as the exact thing I would wear if I had to apologize to time. What does that even mean? You don't know. But part of you does. You keep walking. There's a row of high-tech looking shoes, copper wiring, mesh netting, even what appears to be a miniature antenna. Your pair is labeled MKD4 Dark's radio-tuned footwear. Allowed dreamers to receive broadcast signals from other sleepers within a 3-mile radius. Discontinued after synchronized night terrors in New Jersey. Another tag catches your eye. It's scrawled on masking tape, stuck haphazardly to a pair of leather Oxfords that are smoking slightly. Yes, smoking. The tag says, "Do not wear unless you are completely over your ex." Okay, noted. You pass rows of shoes that range from the bizarre to the oddly mundane. Sandals that allegedly caused prophetic sleepwalking, ballet flats woven from dreams about unsent letters, combat boots worn only in dreams where the dreamer died peacefully. Some pairs are locked behind glass, others are not. And that's what brings you to the center. There on a low pedestal sits a pair of shoes that are hard to describe. Not because they're abstract. No, the shape is familiar. Laced mid-top, slightly worn around the heel. They just look exactly like the pair you wore your first day of middle school. Not a replica. Your pair. Every scuff. Every speck of dried mud. The laces knotted in that weird panic tie you did when you were running late for the bus. You're sure of it. Even the little red ink mark on the left sole. You made that in math class absent-mindedly. They're here. They shouldn't be. But they are. The label simply says, "Loaned." You step back instinctively. That's when you notice the box beside them, closed. With a post-it note stuck to the lid. Handwriting you don't recognize, but somehow trust. We always give them back. Once you've walked far enough to deserve them. You don't open it. Instead, you look up. Above you now hangs a massive mobile, like something you'd find above a crib. Dozens of tiny shoes, dangling and spinning slowly. They don't cast shadows, they hum, each in its own key, like wind chimes made from dreams someone once had and never told anyone about. You sit down on the bench beneath them, just for a moment, and the entire warehouse feels like it exhales. That's when you realize you haven't thought about waking up once. The mobile above you continues its slow rotation, shoes turning lazily like the planets of a forgotten solar system. No planets of war or fire or storms, just hush, just memory. Each little pair of shoes spinning in its own quiet orbit, perfectly, balanced as if gravity here doesn't quite follow the same rules. You stand, because if you sit too long, the warehouse might decide you've made yourself too comfortable. And the shoes on the pedestal? They're still watching you, not literally. But you know that if you turned your back too fast, you'd feel them shift just a millimeter, as if inching toward you, slow as guilt. So you move on. At the far end of the warehouse, there's a freight elevator. The kind with accordion doors and a lever that doesn't move unless it's ready to. A sign above it reads, "Authorized access only. Memory weight above recommended limit." You pull the lever anyway. The doors close with a mechanical sigh, like the whole thing is held together by reluctance and screws from 1932. Inside, there's only one button. It doesn't say down, it says deeper. The elevator hums as it descends. Not a clean electric hum, but the groan of something remembering its purpose after being asleep for decades. You're not sure how long you're descending. Could be seconds, could be years. When the doors finally open, you step into what feels like a basement of the soul. It's dark at first, but the lights blink on one by one in a long, echoing sequence. Thunk, 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 revealing a room that looks nothing like the sleek warehouse above. This place is cluttered, messy, half archival, half attic of your dreams. Stacks of notebooks, hand-drawn sketches tacked to corkboards, jars of laces sorted by color and decade. There's a couch here covered in threadbare blankets. Someone once lived in this room, or never left. A small plaque near the door reads, "Department of Dream. Retrieval closed 1973. You walk past an old file cabinet, each drawer labeled by theme, recurring fall dreams, dreams involving teeth, but not fear the ones with the train. That never stops. You open one and find pages upon pages of shoe sketches, each with notes in different handwriting. Dreamer walked backward through childhood. Shoe caused brief levitation. Witness confirmed. Too dangerous, burnt. Tasted like ash and oranges, not reproducible. You shut the drawer slowly. You're not sure if the room is meant to comfort you or warn you, but then, in the far corner, you see it. A locked cabinet labeled "The Collective Shoe." That's all it says. No keyhole, no hinges. Just smooth, seamless metal. You walk toward it, and as you do, you start to remember a dream you've had more than once. The details always change, but the shape remains. You're walking through a city you've never seen, wearing shoes that feel borrowed. The ground moves slightly beneath you, like breath under carpet. You pass strangers who nod like they know. You like you're wearing the uniform of some invisible fraternity. You never speak in the dream, you just walk. And when you wake up, your calves ache like you hiked uphill for hours. You always forget the dream a few minutes later, but now it's back. Clear, and you realize you're not alone, because next to the cabinet, there's a shoe rack, empty, except for one pair. Not antique, not glowing, just modern, a style you recognize. One you've probably worn before, sneakers, soft gray, worn in. Yours maybe, maybe not, no label, no story. Just a small tag that reads, "Try these on, only if you're sure you want to keep walking." You reach down, and suddenly, your hand stops. Not. Because you're afraid. Because you remember that dream. The one where you put on a pair of shoes and could never stop walking. Through cities, fields, battlefields, empty malls, dream after dream after dream. Forever. And the shoes never wore out, and neither did you. But you also never got to stop. Not even once. So you let your hand fall away. The tag flutters slightly, like it was waiting for you to choose. You look around the room one last time. There's no door back, no staircase, just the elevator behind you, still open, still humming, like it wants to know your choice. You step back into the elevator, leaving the sneakers behind. They don't call after you, they don't vanish dramatically. They just sit there in the dark, waiting for someone with less hesitation and a bit more momentum. The elevator doors close gently this time, like a book that knows the next chapter might ask too much. The lever resets itself without your touch, and this time the button simply reads, "Further," a soft click, and the descent resumes. As you travel down, the hum becomes music, barely. Not a melody exactly, more like a lullaby someone tried to remember but only got halfway through before falling asleep again. The chords don't resolve, the notes don't land. They float, they breathe, they ache. When the doors open again, you're greeted by warmth. Actual warmth. This isn't industrial anymore. It's domestic. You're in a living room, furnished like it's 1971, and someone's grandmother never updated a thing. Shag carpet, wood-paneled walls. A couch that makes your back hurt just by looking at it. Lamps with that yellow glow of memory. The TV's off, but it hums faintly, like it might turn itself on just to show you something you forgot existed. And right there, next to a pile of old magazines and a half-finished knitting project, is a shoe. Just one. Child-sized, scuffed toe. Velcro strap. Cartoon astronaut on the side. You know that shoe. You wore that shoe first grade. You fell in love with it at the store because it made you run faster, and no one could convince you otherwise. You wore it until the sole split, and your mum finally tossed it when you weren't looking. You cried about it for a week and claimed you'd never run the same way again, and now it's here. Not a replica. The shoe. You kneel beside it, hand hovering. Not quite ready to touch, because deep down something in you knows if you pick it up you might not be able to let it go again. The TV screen flickers. Just once. Static. Then black. Then a faint image. Blurry. Grainy. You. Running. At 6 years old. Wearing both shoes. Laughing with everything you had in you. And for a second you swear you can feel what it felt like to run like that. Like the world didn't weigh anything yet, and your feet barely touched the ground. The screen cuts out. Silence again. You stand. Slowly. On the mantel there's a line of baby shoes. Different sizes, different styles. Some polished, some weathered. One pair looks like it belonged to someone who never quite made it out of their first winter. Another, hand-knit booties with a tag, born into a dream, not a world. Each one is a memory, not just of feet, but of futures. Some lived, some imagined, some grieved. A photo album lies open on the coffee table. No faces, just shoes, row after. Choicey, each labeled with what the wearer was dreaming the first time they walked in them. I was flying above a library. My dog was still alive. I had all my teeth, but they were made of keys. Someone loved me exactly the way I wanted. You close the album gently. There's something sacred about this place. This is where the company kept the dreams that were too personal to sell. The ones that didn't make it to production. The ones that belonged to just one person and were never meant to be shared. You wander into the adjacent room. A nursery. Crib still made. Rocking chair still rocking. Slightly, even though you didn't touch it. On the wall framed blueprints of shoes that could have been. Each one labeled, archived. And below it, a message stenciled into the wall. Some shoes are never built, because the dream they come from is too soft to survive the world. You stand there for a long time, long enough to feel yourself soften a little too. Then you notice a door, smaller than the rest, child-sized. You kneel to open it and find a small wooden staircase. Not down, up. A hand-painted sign reads, "Back to where it started." You climb. Each step creaks like it's reciting something in a forgotten language, and at the top, a familiar door, the kind with a little bell, the kind that opens to a rainy street. The door at the top opens with that same single chime you heard when this all began, middle C. But it sounds different now. Slower, a half step sadder, like the note remembers everything you've seen since you walked in. You step out, back into the shop, but it's not exactly the same. The rain has stopped. The window pane glistens with streaks of water frozen in the act of letting go. Outside, the street is quiet, eerily so. No cars, no footsteps. Just the distant hum of a lamppost, buzzing with the last of its electricity. The kind of silence that feels like the moment between sleep and waking, when your body hasn't decided which world to commit to yet. Inside, the shelves are rearranged. There's no one behind the counter still, but now there's a teacup, half full, still warm. You didn't see it before, and something else, the shoes, they're facing a different direction now. Not toward the door, but toward you. As if they've been waiting, or listening, or perhaps judging your route through the layers below. You don't know if it's a test you passed or just one you survived. You walk slowly, and that's when you notice it. The sketches on the wall, they're yours. You don't remember drawing them, but your handwriting is unmistakable. The shoes you designed in your sleep, maybe. Or in those blurry moments when you thought you were just doodling during meetings or lectures or long waits in waiting rooms. Each sketch is labeled with a title, "For Running Toward Not Away." When grief feels like static, the ones you wear to forget the endings. Just one more morning. You realize you've never seen a single one of these shoes in stores, but they feel real. That's when you reach the back of the shop again. The velvet curtain you saw hours ago, or maybe just moments. Time here is as loose as a shoelace you haven't tied yet. Behind the curtain, a room you haven't entered. Until now, it's smaller than you expected. Cozy. Just a chair, a desk, a mirror, and on the desk, a box. The box. You recognize it. The same. One from earlier, the one with your name on it. Except now it's open inside, the same shoes you were wearing when you arrived. But different. Now they bear a tag that reads, "Returned from journey." Fit adjusted. You pick one up, it's lighter. The sole is worn in a new place beneath the ball of the foot, not the heel. As if your weight shifted somewhere along the way. As if something inside you decided to walk differently. You sit in the chair and put them on, and for the first time since entering the store, the floor feels right. Balanced, soft, grounded. You look up at the mirror, and you see yourself. Not younger, not older, just here exactly as you are. And for a second, the reflection blinks slower than you, then matches you again, and then behind your reflection, you see it. A figure. No face, just a long coat. A shoemaker's apron. They raise a hand, not in greeting, in acknowledgement. Like you've joined something, not a club, a continuum. You blink and they're gone. But the mirror still holds the shape of their presence. Like warmth left behind on a pillow. A soft click comes from behind you. You turn. The front door is open again. Sunlight, actual sunlight, not dreamlight, not moonlight, not metaphor. Warm, inviting, real. The shoes on your feet hum faintly, one last time. But this time, it feels like a yes, not an answer, just a permission. And you walk toward the light, one step, then another. The bell above the door chimes, middle C, and as you cross the threshold, the sound fades behind you. But the shoes, they stay on your feet like they were always there. The street outside feels different now. It's still the same block, same lamppost, same old brick buildings slouching into themselves, same mailbox with the sticker that reads, "If found, please return to reality." But something about the air is softer, as if the molecules themselves remember the dream you just walked out of and are giving you a moment to acclimate. You look down. The shoes you're wearing, they don't stand out. No glowing seams, no wings, no stitched-in riddles or secret compartments that whisper your childhood nickname. They just look like normal shoes. But you know better. You take a step, and the ground feels softer, not squishy, just less certain. Like the world is offering you a bit of cushion in case you're still unsure where the dream ends and the sidewalk begins. You start walking, and with each step, the sounds of the waking world trickle back in. Distant traffic. A dog barking. Someone laughing in an apartment 3 stories up. But underneath it all, beneath the clatter and shuffle of daily life, there's still that hum. Faint, internal. Like your bones are remembering a lullaby from a life you don't fully recall. You round a corner and find yourself on a new street, except it's not new. It's the one from that recurring dream you used to have in your 20s. The one where every door leads to a memory you were too afraid to look at. The sidewalk cracks are in the same pattern. The windows have that same flicker of orange light behind them, like someone's always watching just enough to make you feel haunted but not alone. And suddenly you understand, you're not fully out of the dream. Because the dream was never inside the shop. It's everywhere. It's stitched into the corners of your days, pressed into the tread of your decisions, humming just below every choice you almost made but didn't. The shoes didn't change reality. They just made you able to see where it's been stitched together. You keep walking. Not because you have to, because now you want to. And as you move through this not quite waking city, you start to notice them. Other people. A woman wearing boots that shimmer ever so slightly in moonlight. But even though it's noon, a child in sneakers that seem to leave behind faint footprints even on dry cement. An old man whose sandals make no sound at all. They glance at you and nod. Just once. The way people nod when they've both been through something. Not the same thing but something like it. And you realize they've walked through the shop too, or one like it, maybe in a dream. Maybe in a story someone once told them when they were sick or tired, or just lonely enough to listen. You pass a storefront that's boarded up. You blink. It's a shoe shop, closed, but not gone. The window reflects you, and for a split second, you don't see your face. You see Antoine Morel, smiling softly. Then you see yourself again. Older, still walking. The hum's a little louder now, but it's not from the shoes anymore. It's from you. And you begin to wonder, how many people are out there, walking in dreams someone else once left behind? And if you keep walking long enough, who will one day wear yours? You walk until the street forgets to be a street. The pavement thins into gravel, then grass, then something that feels like pages. Soft, pulpy, sun-bleached. It's not a road anymore. It's a memory path. A shortcut through every place you once passed through without noticing. That gas station you always meant to stop at. That park bench you never sat on. That apartment window that always had a light on, even at 3 a.m. And then, there it is. A single shoe. Just one. Sitting in the middle of the path like it belongs there. Like it's been waiting for someone to recognize it. You do. It's not yours. But it's familiar. It's the kind of shoe you see in dreams where someone is running and you don't know why or what from. The kind of shoe that squeaks in hallways with linoleum floors, that appears in childhood photographs of people you don't remember, but swear you've met. You lean down, hesitant. Inside, the shoe is a folded slip of paper. You unfold it carefully, like it might evaporate in your hands. One sentence. She never made it home, but she left directions. You look around, there's no sign, no map. Just the path continuing forward, but narrower now, lined with lampposts that shouldn't be here. They flicker even though it's still daylight. You walk. You pass more shoes. Not pairs, singles. Some look ancient, some futuristic. One is made entirely of seashells, another of woven film negatives. Each one has a story stitched into it, but none of them are yours until you see it, a glass case, out in the middle of nothing, surrounded by nothing. Inside the case, the first pair of shoes you ever bought for yourself. You forgot about them, but here they are, laces still frayed, toe box stained with something you can't quite remember, coffee or blood or rainwater. You were 19 and trying very hard to be someone, not yourself exactly, but a version of you that would survive adulthood. You stare at them longer than you mean to, and that's when you hear a voice, not a loud one, a whisper close to your ear, like someone leaning in from a place not quite behind you. We don't walk to remember who we were. We walk to meet the version of ourselves we've already forgotten how to become. You turn. No one there, just more shoes. And now the path is changing again, splitting. 3 directions, one paved with velvet, one with cobblestones, one with mirrors. You hesitate, obviously, but then a pair of shoes walks past you, just walking, no legs, nobody. Just the shoes keeping pace like someone invisible inside them. They pause at the mirrored path, then keep going. You follow, and as you walk, your reflection keeps pace with you in the mirrored ground. But it's not just you. It's versions of you. You as a child, barefoot in wet grass. You at 17, sprinting down a hallway too brightly lit. You at 30, sitting in the dark, unsure why the silence was so loud that day. Each reflection nods at you, not like a ghost, like a relative, like someone you've disappointed just enough times that they still root for you anyway. The mirrored path twists, it narrows, it asks you questions, not in words but in images, moments, feelings, and your shoes. They don't answer, but they carry you forward anyway, because that's what they were made to do, not to know the way, just to keep going. And as the reflections blur and fade, you hear the whisper again, this time softer, more certain. The destination isn't real, but your footsteps are. The mirrored path doesn't end, it simply dissolves. One step it's there, reflecting your past selves with eerie, shimmering precision, and the next it's gone, like a puddle drying in the sun. You're standing now on dirt, cracked and warm beneath your feet, not hostile, just honest. A small wooden sign points ahead, burned into it are the words, No more paths, only choices. You smile because, of course, you walk forward and the world opens again. Not into a city, not a shop, but into a wide field of shoes. Yes, shoes. Thousands, maybe more. Some standing upright, like soldiers awaiting orders. Some collapsed, half buried, as if they lay down mid-journey and decided rest was worth more than arrival. Boots with lichen crawling over them. Slippers turned to nests. High heels sinking into soil that hasn't seen a footprint in decades, and they go on forever. In the center of this shoe meadow stands a tall wooden frame, empty, like a door without a door, just four corners, weather-worn beams, a hollow space. In the middle, where something ought to be, a threshold, you walk toward it, and as you do, the shoes around you begin to shift, not moving exactly, but responding. You hear soft creaks, a distant jingle, the brush of laces against grass. They remember you even if you've never seen them before. They remember you. A plaque on the wooden frame reads, "Step through only if you are ready to wear the dream that isn't yours." You hesitate, because it's a heavy thing, isn't it? Wearing something that doesn't belong to you. Shouldn't dreams be personal? Shouldn't shoes only fit the one who walked them? But then you remember all the dreams you've carried over the years that weren't yours, the ones your parents handed down in looks and warnings, the ones strangers whispered on buses or in passing conversation, the ones that lived in books you read too early, and in films you didn't understand but felt anyway. Dreams shape you whether or not you ever asked for them, and maybe the only way to move forward is to walk them until they become your own. So you step through the frame. Nothing happens. At least, not at first. But then the sound of a door unlatching, not one in front of you, one behind your ribs. A memory spills out. You, age 8, alone at recess, making up games so you didn't look lonely. You, age 16, walking home after your first heartbreak, pretending your footsteps weren't echoing in pairs. You, age 27, realizing you've outgrown a life you haven't even finished building yet. None of those memories were about shoes, and yet they were carried by them every time you walked away or toward, every time you stood still when the world wanted you to move. Behind the threshold, there's no new landscape, just a small hill. At the top, a bench. You climb, sit, breathe. It's quiet here, not empty, just complete. You look down at your feet. The shoes are still there, but now they're yours. Not because you bought them, not because someone gave them to you, because you walked them, because every step shaped them, because every moment you carried them through, loss, love, wonder, exhaustion, left a mark, the heel. Worn from pacing during long phone calls, the toe scuffed from kicking open doors you were afraid to walk through, the laces frayed from tying and untying your own expectations over and over again. And now, they're quiet, not humming, not glowing, just still, like they're ready, because maybe you are too. The bench beneath you creaks, not because it's old, but because it's honest. You lean back. For the first time, there's no whisper, no sign, no strange object waiting for you to interpret it like a cryptic dream. Just wind, soft and warm. Just the weight of the shoes on your feet, just presence, but it doesn't last. A sound begins at the edge of the hill. A slow, steady rhythm. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They don't come in a rush. They come like a tide. You look, and there they are. A crowd of people far off, all walking the same winding path you took. Not exactly your path, but something like it. Each person wearing a different pair of shoes, some worn, some polished, some cobbled together from memory and grief, and each of them is walking toward you, not to meet you, not to follow you, just to pass you. They nod as they go, not hello, not goodbye. Just, you're here too. Some of them glance at your shoes as if they recognize the shape of the miles you've walked, and maybe they do. Maybe their dreams crossed paths with yours at some point in the fog of sleep, or in the silence between waking hours. You watch them climb the hill, past the bench, and disappear down the other side, into the next part of whatever this is. You don't move. Not yet, because suddenly, sitting still feels like its own kind of sacred. You think back to all the shoes you've seen, Antoine Morel's final design humming in its glass cradle, the blind designers, stitching sensations into souls, the experimental prototypes that walked entire collectives into shared illusions, the single child shoe left behind like an apology, the old sneakers, unchanged by time, but forever marked by where you stood in them. And you realize something. You haven't been walking through a dream, you've been walking inside a memory. Not just yours, ours. Everyone who's ever moved forward when it hurt. Everyone who's ever stopped just to listen to the quiet. Everyone who's ever laced up their fear and turned it into a journey. You stand, not because it's time to go, but because staying too long would make this a destination, and nothing about this place wants that. You take one step forward. The bench doesn't sigh, the ground doesn't shift, but you feel a pull behind your ribs again. This time not a door unlatching, but a hand resting. There, soft, gentle, like a blessing whispered from inside your bones. You're walking it now. No more paths, no more test pairs, no more prototype shoes, just you and your feet and whatever comes next. The hill slopes gently beneath your feet, not steep, not challenging, just enough incline to make you notice your own balance. Just enough resistance to remind you that every step is a decision. The sky above you isn't quite dusk, but it's getting there. Soft golds melting into lavender, like someone dimmed the brightness on reality by a few notches to help you settle in. You walk alone now. Not because no one else is here, but because this part is meant to be. The ground changes again. Grass into stone, stone into tile, tile into something that feels like time hardened into a floor. You pass a row of archways, each carved with a word: belonging, departure, stillness, regret. Return, you stop at that last one. There's no door inside the arch, just a mirror, not like the one in the store. This one reflects exactly what's in front of it, which is to say you as you are. But here's the trick. The shoes you're wearing, they look a little different in the mirror, not wildly, just subtly. As if the mirror shows not just where you are, but how you carried yourself to get here. The toe worn from stopping short before you said something you shouldn't. The heel compressed from standing still when everyone else moved on. The color faded not from sun, but from walking away quietly. You touch the mirror, it doesn't ripple, it doesn't suck you in. It just feels like cool glass. But inside you, something stirs, and the memory returns. Not a scene, a feeling. That time you almost left a place too soon. That person you said goodbye to before the conversation was finished. That job, that city. That version of you, the one who could have stayed just a little longer, and then you forgive them, you forgive yourself. Because not every shoe was made to walk in a straight line. Some were made to circle back. You turn away from the mirror. Keep walking. Ahead is a small stone circle, surrounded by tall, silent trees that seem to breathe with you. In the center of the circle is a bench, another one. But this one has something waiting on it. A new shoebox, smaller than before, no branding, no flourish, just a simple label. For the path you didn't take, but might now. You sit, open it. Inside, one pair of shoes, completely blank, not colorless, just undefined, like a canvas, like they haven't decided what they're supposed to be yet, because they're waiting on you, not your past, not your regrets, not your dreams. You. Now. You take a deep breath, slide them on. They fit, not perfectly, not magically, just honestly the kind of fit that says we'll grow together. And you stand. This time when you step forward, you don't hum. The world does. You take your first step in the blank shoes. They don't sing, they don't glow, they just meet the ground with a quiet, confident thud, like they were waiting for this exact moment. Not earlier, not later, just now. And now is enough. The stone circle fades behind you without fanfare. The path ahead is undefined, not in a mysterious, eerie way, but in a freeing one. It curves and branches in gentle directions, each one equally viable, equally unmarked. For once, you don't need a sign or a voice. or a whisper in your ear telling you where to go. The shoes will follow wherever you lead. That's the point. You walk through a grove of trees that shimmer, not with light, but with stillness, as if each leaf is holding its breath in admiration. The wind doesn't rustle here. It listens. You pause near a stream. There's a log across it, placed naturally by time or fate, or a very considerate forest. You walk over it without hesitation. No testing the weight, no checking for balance. You trust your steps. That's new. Up ahead, a field opens. Wildflowers bloom in chaotic spirals. The colors are impossible. Blues that shouldn't exist outside of dreams, oranges that hum at the edge of vision. Butterflies pass overhead like drifting punctuation. There's no structure here, no buildings, no store, but you feel closer to the dreamed Soulco now than ever before, because maybe it never was a company. Maybe it was a story, one that wove itself into every quiet moment you chose to keep walking. Even when you weren't sure where you were going, you glance down. The shoes are no longer blank. They've taken on a color you can't describe, but feels like you. The stitching curves in ways that echo the paths you've walked. They are no longer borrowed. They're yours completely. You sit in the grass, watch the sun tilt lower. The light stretch thinner, not fading, just preparing. And as you sit there, the sound begins, not music, not humming, breathing, the world exhaling. You close your eyes, let it wrap around you, let it fade, let it rest. Because the journey isn't over. But it doesn't need to continue right now for now. You've walked far enough, you've remembered enough, you've dreamed enough, and it's time to sleep. Time to let the path continue in the soft, safe stillness behind your eyelids. The wind slows, the shoes quiet, and your last thought before sleep is not a question, it's a knowing. You'll walk again. But for now, drift. Let the shoes carry the dream a while.